But anywho, we're going to move on real quick because according to a press release from WWE, in conjunction with the sub-Saharan African broadcast partner SuperSport, has announced a continent-wide talent search to find Africa's next WWE superstar. The search was announced in Lagos, Nigeria, which will be the host city for a multi-day tryout in February 2023. So I wanted to know, how do you feel about Africa being a focal point in the future of WWE's recruitment strategy? Here's what I'll say about it, right? I feel like when it comes to WWE focusing on Africa as a focal point for global recruitment and strategy, I think that it is the way to go. Um, I feel like we need to owe a lot of credit to guys like Omos, guys like Kofi Kingston, right? Who have been kind of ambassadors in a way for WWE as far as African born representation in the WWE. You know, Kofi Kingston was the first African born WWE champion, won the belt at WrestleMania 35. We all know how incredible of a moment that was. But that's just one guy. That's just one guy. And Africa is a continent that is rich in culture, rich in agriculture, rich in talent. And I believe that it is a continent that WWE hasn't really tapped into the way that they've tapped into other continents. They've tapped into Europe with the NXT UK, and now with the expansion of NXT Europe, they've tapped into Japan with the recruitment of guys like Shinsuke Nakamura and girls like Asuka and Kairi Sane, and you know how involved they are with recruiting, you know, certain talents from New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've seen them tap into different continents around the world, whether through touring or whether through recruitment. And so them kind of going to Africa, I think, is just super, super dope, because I feel like there is so much talent there. There's so much culture there. And when you recruit and tap into a new culture, you have the potential to tell these new stories, right? Like you look at Imperium, right? And you look at how they kind of represent the culture of European wrestling. There's stories in that. So imagine, you know, we're 10, 20 years down the line and you get
Jordan, I had lost you
how
completely.
do I say
I
this?
don't
You
hear
get
anything and you froze on my
an
end.
Imperium counterpart from Africa. You know what I mean? Like with with every culture that's tapped into is the ability to tell new stories. So I'm very, very excited and enthusiastic about the potential of what can come from focusing on Africa. So I'll be having my eye on this talent wide this continent wide talent search. So what is your opinions on this?
Okay, now that I regathered my life, no, the thing is that we always had very talented African Americans in WWE. Like the first person that comes to my mind will always be Shelton Benjamin, as underrated as he is.
Right.
Again, like a freak of nature, a freaking like, but he's unnaturally athletic. At least like young Shelton Benjamin, like unnaturally just talented. And of course, you know, later on we had people like Jazz, people like Jackie, you know, people like Bianca Belair, Kofi Kingston, as you mentioned, Bobby Lashley. We have some new stars down in NXT that are African American, and just I love that for us. I love that for our culture. I love that, like you said, they are delving into us. I feel like we have an influence as fans for that decision, because I do feel like without like
Right.
fans pushing for this to happen, I don't think that they would even have thought about it. I think because again, when we think about wrestling, it does feel like it's a white man dominated sport. Um,
Yeah.
I was actually surprised that, you know, you would think that after, or at least like with WWE, you would think that after pandering to just white men, your next shift a gear would be like a different race that would be before, you know, going to Japan and delving into Joshi wrestlers. Um, it's just crazy how much we circled just to get back to here, and I do feel like it was a fan driven response. You know, we
Mm.
push for people like Bianca, we push for people for like Bobby Lashley, people for like Naomi. I mean, just almost 2 WrestleManias ago, we just had the first ever um, main event with 2 African American women for a title match at WrestleMania. And I just
Mm.
love the progression for us. But again, I feel like without the fans like hammering this point in, that you need to like bring more attention to our African American talent, not just because they are African American, but I mean they are very talented. They are very much talented. And I feel like they're constantly being snubbed in favor of, again, particularly like white men or European wrestlers. Not that there's
Mm.
anything wrong with them. It's just that like you don't get like people like Bianca Belair are like a once in a lifetime generational talent. You're not going to find another Bianca Belair that easily. Stop passing up on our people. But I just love the idea that they're going to take their time to give us more representation and try to find more wrestlers, I guess, from where we're from. So
Mm,
I love it. I think it's great, but we'll see how it works out. 'Cause I feel like they're trying a lot of different experiments right now between
yeah.
what you mentioned with them trying to seek people out from colleges and stuff like that. They are doing a lot of experimental testing. So I don't want to get too excited, but I am excited. I just want to see what they're going to make of this. What do you think?
So I mean, like I kind of agree with what you said as far as like the fans, right? As far as like the fans being a very, very big part in kind of dictating where they're going. But I also think that it's, young people as well, right? We are the demographics globally are changing, right? We are going to be
Hmm.
shifting from actually, I rephrase that. I think that yes, demographics are shifting and that they are changing. However,
Hmm.
they are primarily shifting and changing in predominantly white countries and predominantly white continents. Like when you look at the US, I think
Hmm.
there's something, a study that was coming out, like a study that came out saying like in 2050 that the majority of this country is going to be multi-ethnic, right? And so when you have those shifting
Yeah.
demographics, you have to change who you put on screen, and you have to change the stories that you're telling, because the stories that you're telling that you told 20 years ago may not stick and relate to the stories that are going to be told in the next 20 years. And so now you have to change talent, now you have to pivot. And I think that this is really also tied to Hunter's ability and desire to grow and evolve with the world around him instead of trying to make everybody kind of adapt to him. You know what I mean? I think that it speaks volumes of where Hunter wants to take this. So I'm really, 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 really excited as far as
I
this new
lost you,
talent
Jordan.
recruitment strategy and focusing on Africa. I think is going to be dope. I think we're
I,
going to get some great talent as a result of that. But